What a week. Welcome back, everybody. It feels like the end of a long marathon this week. All I'm thinking about is finding a fancy Italian restaurant, take my girlfriend out, spend a bunch of money, and hang out. Welcome back, Artist Journal, July 28th, 2023, broadcasting from a new location. Still need to raise this camera a little bit. Welcome back, everybody. My name is Adrian Pocobelli. It's going to be a shorter show today. Very late getting out of the gates today. Haircut day, as you can see, and just a ton to do. But things are moving forward. Things are getting better. And things are smoothening out. So that is thrilling. And again, just so happy the weekend is finally here. So welcome back. So most of you are going to know who this is. This, of course, is Tezos and Sky Goodman with this really fantastic collaboration. It's a match made in heaven, and I mean, there's a lot of kind of cool things. Of course, Tezos does a lot of like retro furniture, retro objects. It's doing there's the modern furniture series. There were the cell phones, and what's kind of interesting about this collaboration, Sky Goodman often does what I would call speculative sneakers that don't exist, created by AI, as far as I understand Sky's work. So it's kind of a cool mix of what I'm tempted to call like retro chic with objects that don't exist. It's sort of like retro sci-fi futuristic objects. So pretty cool. And again, this beautiful treatment here, this very warm treatment from Tezos on these sneakers. And we're kind of back to this idea, too, of outlines, of taking specific areas, masking them out. I mean, interestingly, though, it's not a super clean outline here, which again gives it kind of a Warhol feel to it. You see how the green kind of goes out a little bit and then stretches out here. So it's not perfectly within the outline, and that kind of actually makes it even better. So just beautiful here, and again, that just warm TV snow, just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful here from Tezos and Sky Goodman. Here's another one. So I think it's a 4-part series, although they may be tempted to make more. Video feedback slip-on highs. Excuse me, considering how well they turned out, they may be tempted to make more. And just a really, really, really cool series. Again, it kind of plays with your mind because you're kind of feeling, this should feel retro with all of the kind of analog gear, but it's actually a sneaker that probably doesn't exist, an AI sneaker. So just really cool. And here is some work by just Tezos solo. I love this one. I almost started the show with this one too. I love this one. Beautiful. It's beautiful, and even the little antenna here and everything, the red writing user interface, the massive phone, it's just awesome. Romer. And this is a one-of-one. Let's just see. Selling for 25 Tezos, sticking with the really cheap prices. Here's the Nokia 1110. I kind of wonder if this is the one I had, but I think I had the other one that we were looking at yesterday. The Nokia was my first cell phone, like a lot of you out there. Only 25 Tezos. Is it still available? It's still available. So that is pretty rad, too. And let's just look at that. And again, it feels like there's almost like, in Apple filters, if you have an iPhone, there's like the warm filter and the cool filter. These all feel like the warm filter or something. They're very warm colors, and I love that, actually, about it. It makes me just happy to be there. Some interesting comments. Someone at the very end, and I'll come back to the top comments here, Crash Stop made a very, I thought, astute observation. I think Miro-esque for the first toques. Yeah, I thought so too, and we're going to look at some Miro. Actually, let's do that quickly now. I thought a very astute observation here. Yeah. I think even more so than Kandinsky, because Kandinsky kind of has those straight angles, right? Has these straight lines, whereas with Miro, it's kind of a bit more freeform, curvy sort of thing. This looks surprisingly digital. This almost feels like a treated file. It's so clean, this image of a Miro. Excuse me. Look at that great music notes here. This is more of what I think of with a Miro as far as texture, but in terms of composition, they both look like classic Miro here. And you see it, so just that kind of free form, style. Now, this is a slightly different style of Miro's, but I thought I'd bring it up anyway. And look at this great contrast of this kind of textury, almost like charcoal here. And then with this straight, kind of almost like marker or pen. And it's easy to forget how early Miro was. Was making a lot of, I think this kind of work. I would guess the 1920s and 30s. And you're really seeing more roots of abstraction. Of course, there are the Murray's works that are data. So abstraction, the history of abstraction is really interesting, but I think Miro, definitely not the first, of course, Kandinsky before, but definitely one of those kind of really important, I would think, seminal figures in the history of abstraction. Particularly, I think it was Clement Greenberg, the famous, historical critic, the art historian, the very famous, you could maybe argue maybe the first kind of critic rock star, Clement Greenberg, who was the main guy who was discussing the abstract expressionists and really what the pop artists arguably revolted against. But Clement Greenberg, if I'm not mistaken, kind of emphasized this idea of the flattening of the canvas. And even it's one of the interpretations of modern art in general is a flattening of the canvas, where it flattens to the surface. You think of a Renaissance work, it's volumetric, it's this illusionistic. And as you get more modern with Impressionism, and as you get towards just abstract expressionism, it's literally about the paint on the canvas. That is the subject matter. And here, if you can see that, and look, it's a trope. It looks like, I guess these are similar paintings here, but it looks like it's something that Miro used quite a bit, though in different works, this idea of putting this charcoal underneath, this layering of sorts. And so, all to say, great observation there. Crash stop. Great observation. A couple more comments here. Natively AI +1 going to my dictionary. That's great. I'm glad we are breaking new ground linguistically here on this program. And I appreciate that feedback, because sometimes I'll just throw out stuff like that, and not really knowing if there's but it's great to hear that people also like that term, because it's different from raw AI. Raw AI is making a work that is only using AI, where something that is natively AI is making a work that only could have been made with AI, perhaps. As I adjust my hair here, it is late in the week. It is latest I've ever recorded this show in the day, but I am here. Runtune, I'm really glad you brought up that Nicholas Sassoon comment. Build a community of people you can rely on. We often see the conversation pushing and pulling on this theme of either putting the art front and center or the market. Either focus on the art as a means of pursuing your passion versus doing more work to promote yourself to be more quote-unquote successful. We rarely put the social aspect front and center. I think that this is a wonderful lens to view from. I'm grateful for sales. I appreciate any incentive to create, be it as a passion or a market-based motivation, but I forget there's more to this than being creatively productive and potentially, hopefully, a full-time artist. But it's the relationships with people like you that make this more than just selfish individualism. Well, the feeling is mutual, Runtune, who has shown up to every single, since joining the Twitter Spaces, Runtune has showed up to every single show, only late once when he had a plumbing problem. So and there's a plumber there, so pretty good reason. So I think this is worth highlighting too. Cap'n was mentioning it on this week's Spaces, all the great friends that Cap'n has made in this scene. I think it's actually weirdly friendly for an art scene. like most art scenes are kind of friendly, but when you start digging deep, I mean, they're intensely competitive. This scene is remarkably friendly, and I'm sure there's competition on a certain level. We're all competing, but it's not like the knives have been coming out or anything. And I mean, it's not perfect, but it's like a remarkably friendly situation and something that, it really is. I mean, who is mentioning their deathbed over and over? Maybe that was a different conversation I was having, but it's something where on your deathbed, you can feel good about it. Right? I mean, something you can feel good about on your deathbed. Atzo, thanks again for your kind words. I was overjoyed to do this 4-part shoe collab with Sky, so what we're just starting the show with, the last 2 works from this 4-part shoe collab. The other 2 came out today, in fact. Sky is an amazing artist and will very likely find another project to collaborate on soon enough. I'm glad to hear. As for the cell phone series, I very much am doing things by the seat of my pants on this one. You're right, it's a cheap way to get a 1 of 1. When I decided I wanted to do this series, I wanted them to be accessible to all, and I hope that folks can relive part of their technological past with these. So for the joy of art, Atzo is at your service. So really great comments here, Atzo. And I hope to pick up one of those 1 of 1s when I have a few more Tez in my wallet. Great work. And yeah, I'd love to see more collabs with Sky. It's begging to happen. KF, Kyle Flemmer, always finding new exceptional artists from this journal. Cheers. And Zach Lloyd, great episode. Missed that last Zoxo. There's another one coming up today from a couple of days ago, so I had to scoop a Star X block today. I haven't really considered all the logistics of an open edition, but these Zoxo works are getting me inspired to make one myself. Yeah, really awesome artist. I agree. And Bos Gracias, that awesome artist that uses the digital or the film negatives. Adrian, it's always a pleasure to come across this journal, and apart from your curator's perspective, I truly appreciate the enthusiasm in every collection talking. We can see passion in each of these entries. Love and thanks for that. Thank you very much for including us in this new episode. We love this series too. Do you want to know who the artist of Sinicchio? I know that mystery is fine too, but I can reveal it. Some friends that go to Europe bring them to me from a museum, and when they leave, I told them to bring something just for me, and they know I'm a collector. Did we mention Sinicchio? I'm trying to remember. It's been a long week, Buska, but feel free to message me. I do want to know the artist of Sinicchio. Ed Marola, always great to hear from you. Awesome, awesome artist. Check out his YouTube. And look who we heard from as well. Cider. Hi, Pocobelli. This is Cider. Thank you for featuring me once again. Love having fun with these fruit series. So just totally awesome. H Human Boy, great episode. Thank you, Primitive Intel, and Crash Stop, of course, with that excellent observation on the Miro-esque quality of Tukes' work. This is just kind of a funny thing for those longtime viewers here. There was once a work that Uxine had made, and I thought it might have been a Tamagotchi, and then it was kind of like a mini meme, let's call it that, within our community here. Goodnight gave the Uxine. So first Indio Robot made a version of this, and it was hilarious, but then now it's being put into Runway. Now, for those that might not know, Runway is the new AI. It's kind of Midjourney for video, as far as I understand. I've never used it myself. The way these things go, I'll probably use it in 6 months after everybody has tried it out, and then I will end up using it. But look at this. So it turns into a commercial now, as if it's like a diamond ring for your wedding anniversary or something. So hilarious. The fun continues. There was the original there. Look at how beautifully this was done. India Robot, nice work. So taking it to the next level. I never get tired of Art Matter, the pen work. So this is Zancan. There's actually maybe a little too much in here to read, but I just kind of wanted to, let's look at this. This is kind of what I wanted to highlight here, which is just these pen plotters at work. I mean, look at how I can watch this all day. It's 3 minutes and 18 seconds, so we won't watch the whole thing. It never runs out of ink. Like, just awesome. Like, it makes art for you. I love it. Like, I mean, it's just insane. You know, again, you get that natural contrast. Why this works. You know, just before we move on, why does this work? And I think the reason it works is because we have this digital lines, you know, these super mathematically precise lines, but we're also getting the randomness that comes with physical, ink on paper, with physicality, the randomness of physicality. And so we're getting a natural contrast between that hard edge and then all the chaos that goes into the lines here, because of course, this physical reality is not perfect. It is not the forms, Plato's forms here. We are dealing with matter. So we're going to get different amounts of ink, and so it's going to create these little chaotic lines. I mean, again, it's like hypnotic here. Shall we just skip a little bit further and just see what happens here? So, like, who doesn't want one of these? Like, that looks awesome. So I just had to share that with you. This is kind of hilarious. PP Cop Offline Edition, really cool title. Now, this is a short film inspired in PP Cop by PP Universal. This is by Leprochant, at auction for 50 Tezos. And let's just see, created auction. So no takers yet. I have a cameo in here with the voice. So anyway, new work by Leprochant. Let's see what's going on. Kind of an ambition. I have no idea what's going on in this work.
I'd buy that for $1.
Almost looks like a Hasdrubal waffle piece here. I wonder what program that was. I mean, pretty cool video. And then we recognize this from a previous episode, this mask, I believe. I mean, pretty ambitious, like, art video here.
Now it's PP. Now it's Universal. Now it's Universal, right?
I think that's me.
It's my job, actually. I try to make it myself.
It was... Okay, we're almost done.
My mind is everywhere now.
Very kind of museum-esque. I mean, nice production, Leprochant. Very nice production. This could be in some biennale somewhere. Very nicely done. And then a little music at the end. I mean, it feels like one of those things you'd see at like the Berlin Biennial. So, hilarious. Thank you. Thank you, PP. Or sorry, thank you, Leprochant. Pretty wild stuff. So, you never know what you're going to find on the blockchain here on a daily basis. Figments, speaking of which. A 1 of 1 by Figments. You know what I love about this piece? First of all, I love that it's a 1 of 1. I got incredibly excited right away that there's a 1 of 1 of this Figments series. And of course, Cap'n, if you haven't heard the Twitter Spaces, that is worth listening to. It's in my feed. You know what I love about this? Is the minimalism of the animation. It is so minimal, yet it activates all of the static areas. And what is it? It looks like a little cursor. I mean, what's the name of this work here? Collectively staring into the void of the screen, but it looks like a prompt, right? Like a, you know, an old prompt of DOS. This looks like DOS or something. And look at that. I mean, so just repetition, you know, copy and paste here. And so again, we see it's kind of Warholian in the copying, but we see the difference here because we don't have the randomness of physicality in this digital version. Whereas in a Warhol, we have variation with each screen print, like we were seeing in the Zancan. Okay, so just kind of interesting in passing, and let's just see what happened. 111 Tezos to NFT Spritz within 15 minutes. So nice work, Figments. Great work. Love to see a one of that series. That got me incredibly excited. Patio, Ed Marola. So another interesting work here with some great dithering on this kind of wolf dog figure. This Anubis of sorts here. And again, kind of it looks like some old columns here with some dithering. It's a nice contrast, these kind of old-looking, almost temples and structures and kind of classical columns with this digital dithering. And just beautifully done, some nice textures here, and a screen here. And again, some nice kind of cloud work here. And here you almost see a big statue of sorts with a cool frame. We know the artist here. It is Ed Marola. This looks like it was burned. So there may be a newer version of this, or... no, it was not sure what happened here. I guess we'll have to see. Procreate and Aseprite. So let's not forget, probably started in Procreate and moved to Aseprite. So exporting, combining softwares, and again, each software for me increasingly it's like a brush, for example, or it's like a medium. It's like a tool set, whether just like oil paints, or it's like adding, acrylic heavy gel medium to your acrylics to give them that kind of painterly look. If you ever want acrylic paint to look like oil paint, use the Liquitex super heavy gel medium. Golden makes it too. Richard Prince, I'm almost positive, uses it. I actually prefer it to oil paint because it looks more modern. A little Friday kind of tip and observation over here. Haiti Rockette, see you. Check mark. Kind of quite an abstract glitch ROM here from Haiti Rockette. Love it, as usual, and kind of a bit of a war kind of look to it, doesn't it? Interesting. Only an edition of 3. It's kind of funny, this idea, like the lower the edition number, there is more of an excitement. I have to confess. I'm sure a lot of you feel that way too. And 996 burned. So none really sold. Minted at 112, interestingly. And it was listed at 9. And so it looks like Haiti, okay, M4 Resi got 1 when they offered 20. Nice work. Cool work. Make renders, only a Tezos 11, 91 cents, edition of 30. And here is what looks like a glitch ROM processed through, I'm guessing, analog video, Nintendo, and just a cool, what that UI reminds me of, or this layout of this racing game? You know what that reminds me of? Remember that Hasdrubal Waffle piece, or Kujib one, where we're looking at the path across? And again, we're seeing the influence of video games enter these digital compositions in works, say, by Kujib, or else, aka Hasdrubal Waffle. That is worth noting. Like, from a layout, from a compositional perspective, there is something that is distinguishing, say, some of the works that we're seeing, a lot of the works that we're seeing from, say, a Renaissance work, an Impressionist work, or you name it, pre-Raphaelite work, whatever the case may be. And that's worth noting, and so interesting. Nice work, Mick Renders. Silva Santus, another, someone who really experiments heavily with the glitch ROMs here. And this looks like kind of a racing game of sorts, but not even clear. Very wide angle composition here. Reminiscent of Notorious Man XTZ, Metamarcha. Needs more glitch, 50 cents, edition of 50. And here Zoxo is back, Star Times Block. So back to video games here, a cool combination of Twitter, what is the name? I'm blanking. Tetris. A cool combination of the Tetris UI going sideways with what looks like a Mario star, with a little bit of drag, feedback, we might say, or delay, to use a musical metaphor, on this. So just interesting, right? I mean, using video game elements in order to compose new works of art. Fascinating. Open edition, 11 minted, $1.61 if you have it to spare. François Gamma with a pretty cool new work here. So playing still with the figure, instead of walking, it's running and just big blocks here. So you have to admire François Gamma's versatility. Now, I thought this was a new one. Sometimes I get confused by the notifications here on Object. This is actually from a year ago, 2022. So I guess it was listed. I thought it was kind of strange because I hadn't seen François' list on Versum for a while, I don't think. So anyway, cool work and always good to go in the past. Mika Oladev, artifact number 19, and this is an edition of 1, 35 Tezos, still available. So interesting glitch artist, being quite prolific here, and continuing with what looks like a portrait of a person's head. Almost like a portrait style. Interestingly square, worth observing, 5,000 by 5,000 pixels. Nice, cool kind of ASCII or character text here. Interesting work as usual. Mika Oladev. Guandonarian, open edition, only 4 minted here. 3 Tezos, $2.46 for this really cool animated abstract pixel artwork. Great color too. Really cool work here. Interesting writing. Guandonarian, cool artist. And of course, many of you will recognize this as mech.txt, aka Michael Micasso, The Golden Field. And there was something just kind of regal about this work, something queenly about this work, and great colors here, blue and yellow. Almost like a new palette somewhat by Michael Micasso. So interesting work here. Kind of, here's the day, what looks like the night, but almost maybe the 4 seasons. Not sure. Interesting. Ambitious work. John, July 27th, 2023. So this came out yesterday. Edition of 25. So I'm not sure if John's been putting out work every day, but this stuff just goes like hotcakes, like 50 Tezos each, edition of 25. So we're talking 1,250 Tezos. That is impressive. And look, it's not like John is he's holding on to one. It's not like he's holding on to half of them and then it's selling out. Very impressive. So there is John, July 27th, enjoying the summer in the pool with a lot of the objects, keeping it interesting here, and the grid and everything, and even what looks like a Mario brick wall or something. Very cool. And I mean, it looks probably selling out in like an hour. That is really impressive. And that great hose with the pixels coming out of it. Joe Mariani, Don't Cling to Me, I Can't Fix You. Cool title. Almost looks like a Madonna, like a Virgin Mary figure here, doesn't it? And just really interesting pixel art from Gio Mariani, someone who, if you're, who's been around the Tezos blockchain for quite a while. Really interesting move here. And the more you look at it, the more mysterious this work becomes. And you see all the creativity that goes into the work. Interesting palette, too. Just a lot of interesting stuff going on. And of course, Rat Cloaksy, I mean, we were just discussing this on how on Tezos, if Rat Cloaksy puts something out, it'll sell out in 2 minutes and then it triples in price. And I think that's exactly what happened here. I wonder, it almost feels like it's from the Fake Bacon series. Something on the chair, untitled 1 minute, 23 seconds, number 123, not sure. Interesting title. 5,400, so pretty large work here. Edition of 10, and as you're going to see here, selling out at 20 Tezos each within basically 10 minutes. Less, 2 minutes. Selling out in 2 minutes, a quick 200 Tezos for a rat cloak on objects. So very impressive here. Now selling for 70 Tezos. So there you go. There's your 3.5x there for those buyers. Really nice painterly work here. Interesting colors. Kind of a mysterious composition. Again, kind of feeling like it's got the Fake Bacon vibe going on here. Not that circular kind of Francis Bacon backdrop more of an office backdrop, and then these figures that are kind of metamorphosizing here, and the shadow almost continuing that metamorphosis of sorts here from the computer screen. And interestingly, we were commenting on the plug last time. This time, it's not so much just straight down. Now it's across. So interesting move, and also interesting move on the shadow here. So Rat Cloak doing a lot of experimentation here. Pretty interesting. And then even here. So ambitious and experimental as we love from Rat Cloak. Here's a new one from Greco. A new sports work. I was kind of trying to figure this out. So it is a golf work. I think we saw a tennis work last time. The guy's smoking. This guy's smoking while he's playing golf. The last guy was smoking while playing tennis. And these great shadows, almost Dali-like, De Chirico type shadows. And then there's the golf ball. Here is ambiguous for me because here it seems like there's a boat with someone in the background. This seems to be water. Here, I'm not exactly sure what's going on. But it's so interesting work, though, and ambiguity is a great thing. Lost. Interesting title, Luxury Without Money. Love the title of that series. Looks like it sold, just transferred. Just transferred. I think I actually got one of these. I did. So big shout out and thank you to Greco. Louis Osborne with a new work here, Feeling Pumped. And just an interesting as ever work from Louis Osborne, continuing to release on Tezos. And here we see a kind of machine with a head bouncing ball, pumping the emotions or the happiness, pumping up this person in the chair here. So pretty interesting device here and just an interesting work with that graphic design look from Louis Osborne, edition of 25. And now it is not even for sale on secondary, sold out on primary at 20 Tezos each. So I think it's great. I mean, again, maybe harder to sell, although Rat Cloak sold his work on Ethereum. But, you know, these bigger sales are harder to do, but the low sales, again, you see like Rat Cloak sells out in 3 minutes. I'm sure it's probably, these were transferred. But I think, or no, just offers coming in. Look at the offers coming in. So, you know, Tezos. Native Ed, Lost in the Room of Thoughts. I thought pretty interesting work here from Native Ed. You know, continuing to experiment here in this almost like VR backdrop. It's almost like the holodeck of Star Trek here. And this, you know, person walking intently across this, you know, matrix of sorts. Again, you know, an interesting kind of, we saw, who does this, you know, white humanoid remind you of? You know who it reminds me of? You want a distant association? Is Cap'n. The analogy for consciousness and the soul in Cap'n. Here's like another kind of, almost another take with this kind of humanoid made of light. And look at this. Uxine, ever experimenting, finally makes a GLTF. I guess we shouldn't be surprised at this point. An energy drink, and the last person I remember to make an energy drink was Die with the Most Likes, actually. And so here we see just cool kind of Uxine stickers and Uxine kind of brushwork on top of a bottle with a big portrait sticker on top. Making it look easy, by the way. Making it look easy. So Cursed Brew, is that the title? Cursed Brew, one word. Very nicely done. Only $17.95 on secondary. Let's just see what it sold for on primary. 15 Tezos, I believe. Looks like maybe offers accepted. So interesting. That's still a heck of a lot of money. Almost probably 1,000 Tezos for Uxine there. Continuing on, Coda Nakazono, continuum number 131. So they continue with a banana and a record, vinyl record in the background, and this kind of metallic biomorphic shape, a prism, interestingly, and interesting brushstrokes. So just interesting work as usual from Coda Nakazono. I still remember that super happy profile picture on Twitter, which I hope is still there. Renki, USA. This is USA. And they almost look like pills. I was trying to actually put this beside Uxine's work because I thought of Uxine's work with the pills. All to say, cool work here, kind of, you know, continuing the experimentation. And Something worth pointing out here, which is something I point out often, see how it's static on top? And then underneath, everything is moving. But this, again, this contrast of the static is always super interesting. It really just adds another element of interest and drama. Another one by Renki Yanagigora. So I assume that's Japanese. And just interesting kind of feedback, distortion, and everything here. A little bit of delay. I'm using musical, techno metaphors here. Like this just reminds me of digital feedback, analog digital or audio feedback is what that looks like to me. The visual equivalent. Kudu Kola, who has been experimenting. My hair is quite poofy today. We will fix that on Monday. Kudu Kola Mountain Passage. Edition of 1, I'm really enjoying. Kudu Kola, of course, was making a lot of illustration, really kind of experimental illustration. Now is playing with this kind of pixel digital sample brushes, it seems. Interesting work. Mountain Passage, edition of 1, and sold for a Tezos, only a Tezos. So you got a 1 of 1 for 80 cents. Can't go wrong with that. LB, Numb. Cool abstract here from LB. I think a pretty nice piece here to convey numbness. Nice work from LB here. Edition of 20 for 2 Tezos. There are 19 left. The market is still figuring out how it feels about LB's new work here. This may have just been listed though. So cool work. And I love this one. Ex Mortal. I was tempted to start the show with this one. Reverie, Trash Nostalgia, special drop for the Trash for Trash. So there are more trash works coming. This one, buy now for 10 Tezos. And I thought this was great. Look at how perfect this is. And the colors. The colors are beautiful. Nice work from Ex Mortal. And look at Bosco Gracias. Bosco Gracias, I assume. Look at these awesome 1 of 1s that are coming out. I think it's La Playa. There's something very contemporary art museum of the feeling about these works. And you gotta love how it shows like them coming, like the before and after. Really nicely done work here. This is a 1 of 1. This went to Hack. Big shout out to Hack, awesome collector. La Playa, Alive Memories. This one I think went to Sabato. There was a second one. It went to Sabato, only 10 Tezos for these 1 of 1s. I just think really nice work here. Like if I saw this in a contemporary art museum, photo or art museum, I'd be like, yeah, this is exciting work. It's fun to look at, isn't it? It feels like modern contemporary art. Like very nice work here. 1 of 1 for 10 Tezos. Can't go wrong for your kind of museum in your mind. Cabin Island Lake, Alive Memories. Here was just one more. There was a few more. I encourage you to check them out. And how he leaves the shadows. Like what looks like a hand over here, kind of blocking a little bit. I love it. I love it. There's something just kind of magical about these. Really nicely done. 10 Tezos still available. And this is DJ Kuro. Big shout out. Sends me a bunch of artists. Slumber. And this looks like it's using Runway, which is Midjourney for video. For those that it's just people are starting to use it. Kind of a bit of a creepy video here of what looks like almost a robot or some sort of AI figure. Slumber. 690 edition of 3. There are 3 left. So the market is waiting and deciding. Danielle King with some interesting works. And again, I heard Danielle and Santiago in a super rare space. Very interesting. And we've looked at Danielle King's work before. Edition of 1. So we have a few of them. This is Bemidji, Minnesota. An imagined moment from a lonesome road trip across the U.S. Generated with MProp's Open Studio and upscaled. Kind of feels like Jean Baudrillard's America. You know, this would be like the pictures that would go alongside it. Look at this, great. So this is, I believe, raw AI or AI art, but it almost looks like, tape is here. Really nice work here from Danielle King, generated with MProp's Open Studio. I've never used this one. Actually, I've never even heard of it. Maybe that's another AI tool. And upscaled. There are some great upscalers out there, by the way. Danielle King, Guimon. So here's Oklahoma. So again, more photography, interestingly. I mean, this is almost like AI photography, but more photography coming into this show, I find interestingly. Gillette, Wyoming. And again, I'm looking at these edges, these wonderful edges and these wonderful colors. And just like this empty landscape with this almost like Dali-like kind of object in there on the left. So that's Wyoming. And here's Kansas, Colby, Kansas. And this is a 1 of 1, and these are selling for 50 Tezos. Good job, Danielle. And so just cool. This almost looks like a cinema out in the middle of the desert here. Just interesting work. You see the brush strokes over here? Not sure you can see that. Almost like textured brush strokes. Interesting work. And I love the sky here. It's like monochromatic, but in the screen of sorts, a cinema screen of sorts, there's a blue sky. Very nice work. And is there another one more? Cactus, Texas. Almost like a postcard here. Nice colors here too. So a tour through some of Danielle King's work, all 1 of 1s and all 50 Tezos, selling well with WJ, picking up a couple of them at least. EdgeQ with some cool experimentations. Worked with trading cards in the past, now is painting them. Rally Art 2, and this is a 1 of 1, comes with a physical painting, which is a small size, which is a painting the size of a trading card. So if you want a 1 of 1 EdgeQ physical work, buy this for 30 Tezos, and you'll probably get it in the mail. How cool is that? Very cool, and nice painting too. And look, speaking of nice paintings, this is at Hologram Gallery, which is Chi Moscow Jackson, Portrait of My Heart. They have a really nice show going on from Brandon Vosica. I have a feeling this Hologram Gallery is making waves in Seattle. It is right in downtown, and I mean, they put on quite a few nice shows here. I mean, here's just more nice work. Who doesn't love cats? Cat pictures, almost like a Christmas cat picture. Beautiful. 42 inches by 32 inches, acrylic and pastel on canvas. And here's more. It's not easy to do these text works and make them look interesting and cool. The same thing happens every time, still somehow it remains a mysterious sadness. I think really nice work here. This is acrylic and pastel on canvas. I Love You, Buster. Kind of moving. Untitled number 1. Just very cool work. And that, my friends, is your show. That is our week. Thank you for joining me once again. And until next time, take care.